It's Music Meanderings. I'm Mike Lamneck. And when we come back, I'm going to take a look at my top 10 album releases of 2024. Welcome to Music Meanderings. Please subscribe and comment with the channel here below. I'm going to go through the top 10 releases of 2024 in my opinion. And tell me what you think your top 10 releases of 2024 are in the comments below. Lots of great music coming out in 2024. And one of the releases was seminal punk band X. First of all, I love these guys with just the name simplicity, right? Just X. Smoke and Fiction. And many great albums to their credit. Now they say this will be their last album, but we've heard that before, right? From other bands. But X and their last studio effort, supposedly, going out on top with this one. Original members still in the band. You've got DJ Bonebreak on drums and percussion, Exene Cervenka on vocals, of course John Doe on bass guitar and vocals, and Billy Zoom on guitar, and he plays some bass guitar as well. X, Smoke, and Fiction. If you like X music and classic sounding X, you're going to love this one. Next up is Phish. Now, I'm not a big Phish fan. Phish, Phish. I've heard some of their music. I've always kind of thought they were where the Grateful Dead left off. And of course, Grateful Dead still touring in some form. But Phish kind of took that audience, that jam band audience, and kind of took them along with them, I guess. With their new album is called Evolve, and Phish consist of Trey Anastasio, John Fishman, Mike Gordon, and Paige McConnell. It's their first studio album that came out in 4 years. And really the band, if you know anything about them, you know they're known as much for their live performances as anything, and their long extended jams and that sort of thing. This album, though, I can't get it out of the player. I mean, I just love every song on here. Some favorites include the lead-off song, Hey Stranger, also Oblivion, Pillow Jets. Probably my favorite track, the dreamy, kind of mellow, lonely trip, and also Monsters, but just full of great tracks. Yeah, they jam a little bit on the album, certainly not to the extent that they would if you saw them live. But Phish Evolve, that makes my top 10 list of music releases for 2024. Well, the next band, I guess, is more of a duo. Now, they started off as a band, 21 Pilots. They were a four-piece originally, actually, from my area, from Columbus, Ohio. Played a bunch of churches and smaller venues. Then they really struck it big when they trimmed down to just a duo of Josh Dunn and Tyler Joseph. Tyler Joseph, chief songwriter, singer, multi-instrumentalist. Josh Dunn on the drums. I've seen them live, fantastic live band. Well, they've done it again on their 7th studio album, although this one is kind of a grower. I didn't really like it all that much when I first heard it, because the hooks are a little deeper and harder to find, but once it grabs you, it's worth the wait. They wrap up the narrative surrounding their fictional world of Trench, although all the songs don't reference that. It's darker than its kind of bouncy, poppier predecessor, Scaled and Icy, which came out in 2021. But judging from the comments, a lot of fans prefer that sound from them. Now, their tour, of course, selling out everywhere, and the fans are singing along to every word, including all of the new songs, 21 Pilots and Clancy. Well, we are surveying some of my favorite albums of 2024. And as a music lover, I have really enjoyed being able to listen to so much music. You know, back in the day, you had to save up your money and go purchase a CD and album. And I understand as a musician that it's harder to make a living as a musician, which is one reason ticket prices and merch prices for that t-shirt are higher, because those are the primary ways that these artists make money. They don't really make very much money from streams. Not many, some of the bigger ones, but you really have to have the millions or even billions of streams to really make any substantial money on streaming your music. But it is kind of nice, again, as a music fan, to be able to just go to YouTube or Spotify or wherever you stream and listen to music and take in a lot of these new releases, which I really enjoy doing. One that tops my list for 2024, if you're a progressive music fan, Neal Morse and the Restoration Joseph Part 2. Uber prolific Neal Morse. I have no idea how many albums this guy has out as solo, or of course part of his band Spock's Beard, and many other projects that he has been a part of. Continues to impress with a nice cohesive collection of tunes that continue Joseph's story as told in the Bible. It's a follow-up to Dreamer, Joseph Part 1, and it does repeat a lot of the musical themes that were on that first album, but I don't find that it's really necessary to listen to that first album in order to enjoy the second one. In fact, I have not listened to the first album, and I still really enjoy this release. The Prog Report calls the album very theatrical and dramatic, and in some places bombastic, kind of over the top, but in just the right measures to ensure that it never becomes cheesy. And I would agree with that assessment. Great album if you're into progressive rock. Neal Morse and the Restoration, Joseph Part 2. Well, this is one of the first, if not the very first, of the new releases that I listened to in 24. And that's the new one from the Blackcrowes. Right out of the gate, their 2024 album is a return for Atlanta, Georgia's Blackcrowes. All the grit and kind of Rolling Stones swagger of their 1990 debut. Not a weak track on this collection, in my opinion. 40 years after their formation as Mr. Crow's Garden, that was their original name, the Blackcrowes come storming out on this one with the opening track, Bedside Manners. They bounce right into Rats and Clowns. The single, Wanting and Waiting, Wilted Rose, features country star Lainey Wilson. Brothers Chris and Rich Robinson hitting it on all cylinders on their latest album, The Blackcrowes. The next band on my list of top albums, or just my favorites for 2024. I'm sure you have your favorites. Be sure to list them below. Once an opening act for ZZ Top, Blackberry Smoke. Now filling arenas all on their own. It's their 8th studio album, and the final one, unfortunately, with drummer and band co-founder Britt Turner. He died on March 3rd of this year. They're also from Atlanta, Georgia. Consist of Paul Jackson on lead and rhythm guitar, backing vocals, Charlie Starr, kind of the front man on lead vocals, lead and rhythm guitar, Brandon Still on the keyboards, and Richard Turner on the bass. Now, Be Right Here could easily been released in the 70s. It just has that kind of sound, that kind of feel. And some of the top songs that I like include Dig a Hole, the rocker Hammer and Nail. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. You can relate to that, right? And Little Bit Crazy. They slow it down also, the ballads Azalea and Barefoot Angel. If you've never checked out this band, this is a great place to start. If you like that kind of country rock sound of the 1970s, check it out. Blackberry Smoke and Be Right Here. We're going over some of the top releases of 2024, in my opinion, and I'm sure you have your opinion as well. Some of those top albums of 2024, so much great music released. Go ahead and comment on that. And the next one on my list is Pet Shop Boys and an album called Nonetheless, 15th studio album. 15th studio album, that's hard to believe. English synth duo Pet Shop Boys. Wikipedia says its 4-year gap with 2020's album is the longest period between studio albums for the Pet Shop Boys so far. Nonetheless was another one of those albums that was composed during the COVID-19 lockdowns when duo Chris Lowe and Neil Tennant isolated at their homes, and they composed this largely on the GarageBand program. Perhaps you've used that before. The two sent songs back and forth to each other. The album title, by the way, Nonetheless, is a reference to their circumstances. Nonetheless, we've carried on and done this. So favorites on the album include Loneliness, New London Boy, A New Bohemia, and The Secret of Happiness. And by the way, if you get the expanded version, there is also a real nice EP called Furthermore, which has some of their re-recorded hits on it. We're cruising through some of my favorite releases of 2024. So much great music came out this year, and go ahead and comment on what you think are some of the great releases from 2024. Even as I speak, new stuff coming out that might make it onto next year's list. Well, the next one, this, I'm doing these kind of in no particular order, but if I was to order them, this album would be probably at the top, certainly in the top 3. Cage the Elephant, Neon Pill. I'm new to this band. I've heard of them, but hadn't heard anything by them. Alternative rockers from Bowling Green, Kentucky, 6th studio album. They won the Grammy Award for Best Rock Album twice, 2017 for Tell Me I'm Pretty, and then again in 2020 for Social Cues. And it was announced recently that Cage the Elephant is going to open for all stops of the North American tour of Oasis Live 25. That's Oasis and their reunion tour. Great modern rock album all the way through. Cage the Elephant and Neon Pill. With this next one, it first received a lot of criticism. Came out on the heels of Blue Oyster Cult's epic 2020 album, The Symbol Remains, which was really a fine album. You can think of this one as more a blast from the past, though, as Billboard magazine calls it, revamped 40-year-old recordings. And that's mostly what it is. I think there's one from 2006, but most of them go back to like somewhere between 1978 and 1983. Guitarist Buck Dharma says the songs on Ghost Stories were all contenders for BOC albums during the late 70s and early 80s. He says the record label was begging them for a new album, and they just didn't have new material that they thought was worthy. So they decided to go back into the vaults and recover some of the older tunes. Parts were added, and yes, some AI was even used, but I think tastefully to enhance the tracks. At times, songs sound a bit unfinished, maybe, but I would still place Blue Oyster Cult and Ghost Stories up there with albums that they released from that period, like Agents of Fortune and Spectres. And we're going to round out the top 10 again in no order. 10 releases that I really enjoyed in 2024. Ones that I found myself listening to time and time again. And this next one kind of surprised me. Sweet and Full Circle. I was prepared to not like this album because they only have one original member in the band, and that is guitarist Andy Scott. So they don't really have all that much of the original sound, but it leaks in from time to time. But just a great rock album. Again, original member Andy Scott and his new band, Sweet, who have been around since the late 60s and had some huge hits like Fox on the Run and Ballroom Blitz and Love is Like Oxygen. The new album really rocks. Some of the top tracks: Circus, Burning Like a Falling Star, Changes, Destination Hanover, and they even sneak in those trademark sweet backing vocals from time to time. Well, there you go. Top 10 releases on my list for 2024. And go ahead and share your list. What do you think some of the top releases of 2024 are? Just comment below, and please subscribe to the channel if you like this content. God bless you, and thanks for watching Music Meanderings.